From the headquarters of the Guild of Champions, this is the Becoming Thin podcast, and I'm your host, Terrell. Welcome to another week of your weight loss quest. How did this last week go for you, champion? What new challenges did you encounter? But more importantly, what failure did you go through? And what lesson did you get from that failure? Come on now. Don't let a perfectly good failure go by without you getting your lesson that you reward for your troubles. After all, now if you're new here, I've lost 125 pounds myself after an entire adulthood of chronic yo-yo dieting. Up, down, up again, before I finally got sick and tired of being sick and tired and fat, and made some permanent, meaningful, and actual changes to my real-life lifestyle, habits, routines, environment, community, and to my systems of belief. Because it's all 6 of those things that created the results of my life, and if I wanted to get new, permanent results, I was going to have to go change those things on a permanent way. And you're going to have to do the same thing too. And now I'm here each week to help you get the results in your life of becoming thin, healthy, happy, and in shape. Recognizing that it takes as long as it takes. We embrace the turtle around here. You know, if you wanted to know how I approach weight loss, I think it's going to take time. 30 to 40 pounds in a year, I think is a rock solid effort. It's something to be proud of. Do some people lose it faster than that? Sure, but some people also lose it slower. The reality is there's really only one thing that matters. It's where you quit. When it gets hard. It's going to get hard. Look, I'm telling you, it is going to get hard. There's zero chances of this not getting hard. The question is when it gets hard, are you going to quit? Are you going to, and keep in mind, quitting doesn't mean giving up. It could mean, I'm going to quit this plan. I'm going to go do some other totally different plan where, you start over so you can protect your perfect run. Or are you just going to keep going and just troubleshoot your way forward? In the Guild, I teach people about a concept called the success loop. We say we're going to success loop that shit. I think I've talked about that here on the podcast before too. It's been a minute. But one of the best things to help us move forward is having a quality community in our life. What are we all a byproduct of? Our lifestyle, habits, routines, environment, community, and systems of belief. So if you want to join a quality community, you have a couple ways you can do that. Number one is you can head on over to Becoming Thin on Facebook, and you could join there. I'd love to have you come be a part of that group. We're about to hit 7,000 members. Any day now, we'll be crossing over that threshold. It'll be fun to have you be a part of that. The other option is you could come follow me on TikTok. You can search for Becoming Thin and join my TikTok community. You could also find me on YouTube by searching for Becoming Thin and I go live there every Monday morning at 9 a.m. and the lives are left up for replay. So if you enjoy the podcast and you want to keep more content pumping in your ears so that you don't quit because you've learned the importance of keeping your mind right by having good content that is aligned with how you want to approach weight loss philosophically, and if you like the podcast for that, you're going to like the YouTube live stream. I go live every Monday morning. Would love to have you come over there. The Guild was not planning to be opened again this year. But there have been several people that have asked, like Chris, I want to join, or they're friends of Guild members and they're asking. So I have not decided yet, but I may be opening the Guild on Black Friday. Some people have said, well, are you going to do a Black Friday thing again? I don't even think I did one last year. But several people have asked if I'm planning to do one. So I am thinking about it right now. I don't know. I will have an answer next week. I'll decide if I'm going to do it. I really wasn't planning on doing it, but I may open the doors to the Guild again. And if you are a Guild member, my inner circle, which only opens about once a year, is open right now. So if you are an active Guild member and you're curious about the inner circle, you can in the community, on the circle community, I will have a post going out today. Saying, hey, if you're still wanting to join, we still have a couple of seats left. It is almost full, though, the program. So not everybody is going to be able to get in, but I'd love to have you become a part of that. If you're an active Guild member, you can learn more about that in the Guild. Okay, this week we are going to be taking questions. I've made a post in the Becoming Thin Facebook group saying, drop your questions in the comments down below, and I will answer them on the podcast. And what I'm going to do, I'm not going to be able to answer all of these questions. There's a lot of really great questions here. I may circle around and get a bunch more of them, or I might do them on a live stream or something. But what I did is I looked at the questions that had the most likes, and I started there. I started with those. We're going to go through those. I've taken some notes here for each one of them so that we can hopefully get through these quickly so I can get through more questions than I normally get through in a podcast. And I'll do my best to get through them. So our first question is going to come to us from Jessica. Jessica, let me scroll down. I've got Facebook up right here, so I'm just going to read the comment and then answer it. So Jessica says, you've been at this many years now and have seen thousands of people lose weight the Seco way. What are some of the biggest missteps you see people making along the journey that make it difficult to get to maintenance or to stay in maintenance? As in, what's something or things people neglect to focus enough on while in the weight loss portion? Good question. So I, in no particular order, I jotted down a few things, and there's more things that would be on this list. I was just thinking like, okay, well, what are some of the most common things that probably a general audience would be like, okay, I might be doing some of these. So first one I'm going to talk about is overcomplicating everything. Wow. Some people just love to overcomplicate things. And I understand it because a lot of things in life are complicated, and we've been told for many of us for our life that weight loss is some complicated problem requiring convoluted solutions and special tricks and hacks. And we've told ourselves that we can't lose weight because it's some special thing. And so we have to make things complex because we're special. But the reality is weight loss is actually pretty simple. You don't really got to focus on too many things. I mean, you do have to focus on things, but it's not as many as you really think about. You need to keep your calories in check. You need to keep your protein high. You need to keep your simple carbs low, not gone, just low. You need to get enough fiber in your life. You need to get a bunch of steps, which is just an easy way of saying, are you getting NEAT movement, non-exercise activity thermogenesis? That's your non-exercise movement that burns more fat than exercise does. But also, are you getting your exercise in? Like, are you getting enough sleep, water? Like, these are just the basics. Look, and using a GLP-1 doesn't get you at any of these basics. These are just the basics of weight loss. And what I think a lot of people do is rather than focusing on mastering the basics, they try to jump to all the nuance. They try to jump to all the subtleties before they've mastered the basics. And it's really hard to monitor and stay on top of macros when you aren't able to stay in your calorie target and your protein target. That's just two things. Because keep in mind, when you're doing macros, calories still count. So now you're having to take your calories and divide them into 3 specific macronutrient groups. That makes your food choices much more complicated to make until you've learned how to do that. But if you just start with, all right, I have calories. I'm going to manage my calories. Okay, I've been doing that for a few months. Now I'm going to layer in protein. I'm going to monitor my calories. I'm going to make my protein fit. Okay, my protein, it's only at 110 grams. That is not high enough. I got to get that up. All right, let me get that up to 150 grams. Okay, that's pushing out carbs and fats. Okay, I'm noticing that. I've had to make some changes to get the protein up. So, and I'm going to tell you, look, if you're wondering what your protein target should be, I'm a big believer of keeping things simple. I should be able to do the math on the back of a napkin. It should be really, really easy to do. And so the one that I use is just 0.8 to 1 gram for every centimeter of height. So for me, as a 5'10" dude, I get somewhere, 170 grams of protein a day. If I'm trying to bulk and add muscle mass, I'm going to shoot that up to 180, 200. Do I need to get absolutely that much? No, I could probably be fine with a little bit less. But there's no penalty for having too much protein. And if anything, it slightly helps. So overcomplicate is one thing. The next thing is that people do that complicates weight loss on the journey. It doesn't help them for maintenance. Is they're hyper controlling everything to get results. The only way they're seeing results is when they're meticulously monitoring their calories, meticulously weighing everything, hyper focusing on monitoring their steps and their exercise and their movement, and they're using their conscious mind to control things. But you are a byproduct of your lifestyle, habits, and routines. Another way I could say that it would be true is you are a byproduct of your subconscious conditioning. Because that's where your habits live. Your habits live in your subconscious mind. And you've got to change your subconscious conditioning. We're talking about this in the guild right now. In the end of the year, I always do deep mindset work. And we're doing a whole thing on mental reconditioning right now. I do it at the end of the year because that's the flakes have already left by this point. And not that everybody leaves it's a flake. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is like those that are working on their body, working on losing weight in Halloween week, these people are a different breed. Right? They're focusing on weight loss when most people are like, no, I can't. It's Halloween. The people that are focusing on it all through November and December, that's why we're doing the deep mindset work. Because I know if you're working on weight loss, you're ready for this stuff. So one of the things you got to focus on is like, you have to not hyper focus everything. You can't hyper focus everything. So if you're finding you're only losing weight when you hyper control everything, that's actually setting you up for failure in the long run. It doesn't seem like it is. It's helping you with weight loss, but it's not helping address your weight gaining problem, which is the real problem. And I was just on a podcast this week earlier in the week, which by the way, go check it out. It's called In Moderation. And Liam and Rob host it, and Mike Pridgeon is on it a lot as well. They invited me on. But Liam said something that was really interesting. He just said, I don't worry about all this. I just move and I eat, and I've heard so many people that are thin and in shape, they talk in this way. They just listen to their body and they just eat. So you don't have to hyper control everything. Maintenance, the goal of everything I'm doing here, everything is to help you obtain the body and life of your dreams. And the life of my dreams, I don't think that involves calorie tracking forever. And I'm willing to bet the life of your dreams doesn't involve calorie tracking forever. It breaks my heart when I see somebody that's like, yeah, I've been thin for 15 years and I have to diligently monitor my calories every day to make sure it happens. I'm like, I feel for you. Like, that's just that sucks. You don't actually need to do that, but you may not know another way, because if you only lost weight by hyper controlling, that's how you're going to want to maintain your weight. And we'll touch on this one with a few of the other questions. So the other one is, you must make maintenance a victory that is emotionally equivalent to seeing the scale go down. Maintenance is always a victory. And that's a big difference and why I truly believe I was able to lose my weight is from the very, very beginning, I decided that as long as I'm not gaining weight, I'm winning, because I have a weight gaining problem. Yes, I need to lose weight. That is true. But if every time I'm not losing weight, I'm just staying the same, when I pick the ball back up, I keep moving forward. The real annoying thing is I would stop losing weight in the past and then I would gain 5 pounds back. It's like if I wasn't losing, I was gaining. That's really frustrating. It felt like I had to always be losing. But what if I just lost for a few months and then took a week or two to maintain, kept it easy, and then went back into the deficit, right? Well, that's not so bad if you're not gaining your weight back during that time. But for many people, seeing the scale stay the same does not provide that emotional boost. They need to be equivalent. Maintenance and losing weight need to be emotionally equivalent. Now, that does not necessarily mean you have to reduce how excited you get and how important it is to see the scale go down. I mean, many of you do need to reduce it. You've made it too important. But you don't have to make it not important. You just need to elevate maintenance, making it actually matter. Where when you get on the scale and you see it the same, you're like, yeah, I did not gain any weight. I went through that hard thing and I stayed exactly the same weight. That is a victory. And you condition that into yourself by every time you see that you're the same, you're like, victory. I mean, victory on the weight management problem. Or the weight gaining problem. Victory. Now, is it a victory on the weight loss initiative? Well, no, not on that one. But you're doing two initiatives simultaneously. You're not gaining weight and you're losing the excess weight. The analogy I use to compare this is you have holes in your boat letting the water in, and you need to get the water out of your boat because you're at sea. You have two problems that need to be addressed. You need to plug the hole so the water stops getting in, and you need to get the water out. So sometimes maybe your pump is broken, and so you're not getting the water out of your boat as much, but you're getting the holes plugged. So you've made progress. I got the holes plugged. There's still water in my boat because the pump's broken, but I got the holes plugged, and there's no more water getting in. Now I can focus on getting the pump fixed. The next one that people don't do while they're losing weight that causes them to struggle when they get to the maintenance side of the journey is they're not addressing their emotional eating tendencies. They're not addressing the root causes behind them. Emotional eating can hide in plain sight while you lose weight. Lots and lots and lots and lots of people lose all their weight and don't do anything to address their emotional eating tendencies. And it slowly creeps its way back into a person's life after they've lost the weight and the weight comes back. I don't know if you know this, so in case you don't, I need to say what I'm about to say. Life is still going to have hard times when you're thin. When you're thin, healthy, happy, and shape, life's still going to be hard sometimes. It is not a given that when life gets hard, you gain weight. It might be for you, but that is not an unchangeable thing. It used to be that way for me. If life got hard, I was going to gain weight, and then I was going to keep going. No, you can actually change that and make it different. So you've got to start working on your emotional eating tendencies the entire time you're losing weight. You're not going to be done by the time, even I lost weight. It took me 26 months. I was not done with my emotional eating. I'm almost 7 years into this journey. I'm telling you, I'm still working on it. Am I a lot better than I was many years ago? Well, of course I am. I've been working on it for 7 years. Of course I'm better at it. But you've got to make working on your emotional eating a priority. And part of that is digging into your unresolved issues, digging into your baggage, digging into yourself, challenging your beliefs about yourself, which you can do, working on adopting more empowering mindsets, getting rid of the self-limiting mindsets, but it doesn't stop there. You've got to also start working on the things in your life that are stressing you out. So look at why you gained weight. If it's like, well, I gained weight because of my job stresses me out all the time. Well, you need to be working on that. You might need to get a new job, and that might take you 2 or 3 years to get that done. Well, you need to get started. You need to get started. Some of you, it's not going to be hard at all to get a new job. Some of you, you're in a relationship you need to get out of. Or maybe you don't need to get out of the relationship. Maybe you need to go see a therapist and you need to start working on the problem in the relationship. Okay? So sometimes you might have a problem with your finances. You might find your money is constantly causing problems. You need to start working on that. You need to start working on that while you're losing weight. Yes, working on improving your skills so that you can get a raise to reduce your stress from work is actually working on your weight loss. It is directly connected. It is no different than going to the gym. In fact, I think that is more important than going to the gym, because going to the gym doesn't burn that many calories. And if you go to the gym to burn a few calories, that's no guarantees for the future. But if you go to the source of stress in your life and you make the source of stress in your life stop stressing you out, that helps you forever ongoing. So it's really, really effective. And a lot of people don't work on that. They don't do it because it can be uncomfortable. It can be unpleasant to work on the hard things in life. The other thing that people don't do when they're losing weight that causes them to not be set up for success is they're not learning about food and how it impacts the body. It is so helpful to understand why protein works in the body, like what actually happens. It's not that complicated. It is so helpful to understand the role that carbs play. I have a lesson I keep in the Guild. It's one of the people's favorites. It's where I talk about the gas tanks, where energy is stored in the body, the role of glycogen and the role of fat and what glucose actually does in the blood and where protein flows, and explaining how your body takes the food you eat and where does it send it and how does it work. It is super helpful to know that. Do you need to have advanced understandings of all these things? No, you really don't. I would say you need to understand it about as well as you need to understand finances. You need to understand the concept of income. You need to understand how to save for retirement. You need to understand how to manage debt. You need to understand interest rates. You need to understand the value of assets. You need to understand how to get loans. You need to understand the importance of saving. You need to understand how to budget. You see how I just keep going? You understand all these things. Why? Because when you understand how money works, it's easier to manage your money. If you understand how food impacts you, it's easier to manage your weight. Because you're going to manage your weight like you manage your money. There's no end. You never stop managing your money. You're never going to stop managing your weight. And then the last one for this one is a lot of people, they lose the weight and they don't focus enough on creating completely separate walking habits and exercise habits. A lot of people will lose weight and they make walking their exercise. There's nothing wrong with that. Just understand you are a byproduct of your lifestyle, habits, routines. And your lifestyle habits and routines, if they don't involve a lot of movement, you're not moving a lot. You need to make changes to your actual lifestyle habits and routines in such a way that walking just happens. I used to if I didn't walk purposefully, I'd probably only get 2,000 to 3,000 steps in a day. It wouldn't be weird to get 1,500, 1,700 in a day. Now, without even trying, just living my life. And I have a desk job. Like I work at my desk 8 to 10 hours a day. And without even trying, I get 5,000 to 7,000 steps in a day. Why? I have different lifestyle habits and routines. I don't watch a lot of TV. Do I watch TV some? Yes, but I usually watch it while I'm doing other things. I carry my iPad around. Do I also sit down and watch shows at the end of the day sometimes? Yes, I do. I very much do. I love watching shows and movies, but I don't do it as much as I used to because I had to adopt other things that inject movement into my life. There's a gas station down the street here from my office. I can drive there and back in 10 minutes, or I can walk there and back in 10 minutes. It's literally no different. I've timed it. And sometimes the drive takes longer because I could get stuck trying to get out of the dang parking lot. And so my habit is to walk. When I take phone calls, like just regular old phone calls, one of my habits now is I just go outside and I walk while I take the call, right? That's a little difference I made. Great question. Next one comes from Stephanie. Stephanie asks, "Hi, Chris." Hi, Stephanie. "I lost 100 pounds and have about 25 to go. Congratulations, by the way. I definitely struggle with emotional eating and have made some great improvements there. I've noticed that sometimes it's not emotional at all. Sometimes I just want to eat whatever I want and however much I want without thinking about it. Like, I'm not sad or upset or stressed, really. I just want to mindlessly eat. How can I work through that? So, to be completely clear with you, if you're not eating due to hunger, it is emotional eating. Emotional eating is a spectrum. We have the benign side that's not real problematic to the very problematic side that's more the disordered side. So on the problematic side, you have things like binge eating disorder, bulimia nervosa, anorexia, orthorexia, because again, emotional eating doesn't always cause a person to gain weight. Sometimes it causes them to go the other way. But then you have on the other end of the spectrum, the more benign version of it with things like mindless eating, boredom eating, things like that. So how do we cure boredom eating? We stop being bored. We do its inverse. We do the opposite. So I'm bored. I'm wanting to eat to cure that boredom feeling. I'm wanting to eat to feel something, right? That's what I want to do. I want to feel something. I noticed how you said here, I definitely struggle with emotional eating and made great improvements there. Excellent. But I've noticed sometimes it's not emotional at all. And then you go on to explain how you're mindless eating and almost as if it's somehow detached from emotional eating. So the first thing I would say for you is, don't look at those as separate things. It is all emotional eating. It's manifesting in different ways. It's manifesting in different ways. So this one, what you've described here is on the mind. It sounds like it's on the mindless end of the spectrum. Now, I can't talk to you, of course, to find out if it's actually not mindless eating. I would have to ask you questions about what you were experiencing and doing before the eating started, what's going on with your life. So, but for the sake of conversation, let's just assume it's actually just mindless eating. Just good old-fashioned boredom, mindless eating. So, first, if you want to just not do it at all, you need to just have something to do. You need to have a hobby. You need to have a project or a task. If you're finding you have a whole bunch of time to peruse around your kitchen and you're not doing anything, maybe it's time to take a project on. Maybe it's time to take on a new hobby. Maybe it's time to go find something to do that doesn't have you just constantly wanting to be around food. You know, how do you cure boredom eating? You don't be bored. Well, then I'll go watch TV. Well, I mean, no, not necessarily, because you're finding if you go watch TV, you just still want to mindlessly eat. No, you need to go find an activity you don't want to mindlessly eat at. This is where for me, I started doing photography. I love photography. It's a great way to get me out of the house. It gives me somewhere to go. It gives me something to do. And I did it on my own, right? I'm going to go take pictures of sunsets. I like to go on walks in beautiful places. I love doing it. I like to go visit my family. Might go visit a family member or a friend. Or sometimes I have a work project, or sometimes I have a passion project I want to work on. I got a couple friends of mine, they took up painting. A couple friends of mine, they took up musical instruments. There's been times where, and I've been actually kind of feeling the call again. I've been thinking about picking up my guitar again and playing. Why? Because it gives me something to do. My emotional eating desires have been creeping back up. I need to keep myself busy so that I don't want to emotionally eat. Not because I'm running from my feelings, because if I was eating, I would be running from my feelings. No, I need to be doing something that causes me to feel good because that's truly what I'm wanting to do, but do it in a way that doesn't create a secondary problem. And if I go play a musical instrument, I get to distract myself from what I'm feeling, but I could also maybe channel the feeling into the musical instrument, into the playing of the music, and I get to pick up a skill, right? So, but let's say you are going to eat, right? The answer isn't I'm not going to do it. I'm still going to be around the food. So how do we stop mindless eating? We do its inverse. We do mindful eating. So if you're finding you're mindlessly eating, switch to mindful eating. First thing you do for mindful eating, slow down. Just slow down. Stop just getting the food in so fast. That might mean picking foods that take a little longer to eat. One of my favorite snacks is an orange. Why? It's intense effort. You got to peel the dang thing. You got to have paper towels to clean your hands off. You get to peel out each wedge, but it's very slow. It's a good way to eat the food, but you get to engage with the food. And if you do it slowly and mindfully, you can really enjoy the experience. I will often, here at the office, is one of my favorite things to do during the day when I need a snack. I will go grab an orange that I brought to the kitchen, and I will go sit outside on the curb. And I'll bring out my napkin and my butter knife, and I'll peel the orange, and I'll just sit on the curb, no phone, nothing, and I will just enjoy the orange for a few minutes sitting outside. Enjoying the I don't do it when the weather's terrible. But if it's nice weather, I'll enjoy the cool breeze. I'll listen to the wind blowing through the trees, the birds, or maybe I just have some of my own thoughts and I'll just sit in my own thoughts and think about things, wonder what I'm going to do. Sometimes I've brought my journal out there, or I bring my video journal and my camera and I'll set it up and I'll just talk to it for a few minutes. and I'm enjoying the food slowly while I'm doing this. Really, really helpful. Sometimes you can just, when I'm doing the orange, I'll just sit down at my table and I'll just enjoy it. I also will just sometimes do it while I'm enjoying other shit, right? It's not a big deal, but get yourself to eat something that requires you to slow down. A bag of chips is just too easy to grab and go, right? The other thing to do, though, is when you're finding you're struggling with mindless eating, is start having better quality food around. If you're going to mindfully eat better quality food. Now, I'm not talking about things like organic and stuff like that. I got to be honest. I think most of that's just bullshit, and the science seems to back it up too. I mean, I'm not saying it's not all better, but like some of it's just bullshit marketing. No. I'm talking like if you're going to have chocolate, get good chocolate. Get a small amount, but that's really, really good quality chocolate. If you're going to have some other snacks, get really good quality snacks. If you're going to make a meal, get quality ingredients, right? You're going to get high quality cheeses, high quality. If you're going to make sandwiches, get good, nice bread. Get really nice deli meat, really nice cheeses, some good condiments to go on it, some fresh lettuce and tomatoes if you'd like to have it on there. And just make that sandwich and engage in the process using great ingredients. And this also ties into mindfully eating the food by savoring the experience. Savoring the experience of eating food is not just the act of eating it. The preparation of the food goes along with it. One of the things that I love to do is have tea or coffee. Why? I like the ritual of preparing it. There's something nice about just enjoying the entire experience, enjoying the smells, enjoying the textures. I just made a pot of coffee earlier. I'm enjoying it right now as I record the podcast. And as I made this one, I did it slowly, no music, nothing happening. And I just observed, I'm like, the texture of the filter in my hands and just setting that in there, getting the water on the line just right, nice and slow, paying attention to it. Washing out the the coffee pot, just doing it slowly, enjoying it, washing out my mug that I'm going to use slowly, just engaging with the process and enjoying the entire process before I even began to have it. You could do that with your food. I said, if you're going to make a sandwich, just really enjoy the process of preparing it. Notice all the smells and the sounds. I love a panini press, right? And you just put that sucker on the panini and just enjoy the as you set it on there and you hear the butter or whatever you put on there to give it a little crispiness. Just enjoy the process. And when you're eating it, though, enjoy the flavors. Pay attention to the how it feels when it hits your tongue. Pay attention to the aftertaste, the initial taste. Pay attention to how it changes over time. Get the food out of your hands and just observe the feelings in your body after you've swallowed the food. Do you feel the urge to have more? Just engage with the act of eating. Sometimes if you're finding you're just mindfully eating and you're not going to stop eating, it seems counterintuitive, but just really, really lean into it. All right. Next question comes to us from I believe it was Jane that asked this next question. Hold on, I got to scroll here, find that one. Yes, Jane. All right, Jane says, it has taken me 22 months to get to the point where I'm closing in on shifting to maintenance mode. Woohoo! All right. In that time, I've worked to develop healthy habits and shift my mindset with a goal of holding on to this headspace for life. First off, before I keep reading, that's the right way to look at it. You're not thinking in terms of finish lines. You're thinking in terms of forever, because weight loss is not a finite game. It's an infinite game. It's just like managing your money. You never stop. Okay, continuing on. How do I shift from chasing after becoming thin to now holding on to my beautiful, healthy body when part of my motivation was the triumph of chasing after goals and developing now ingrained healthy habits? I admit I'm experiencing some fear of losing my grip if I relax anything. 100% Jane, I agree. I understand what you're describing. I know this feeling. I felt very similarly because I'm lower in weight than I've been since I was a child, never been this way as an adult. And I'm worried, I don't want to lose this. I've worked so hard on it. And I was also worried because the weight loss journey had taught me so much about myself. And there was tremendous joy that was brought into my life from chasing becoming thin and being in the state of becoming. But remember, as I'm trying to work with you, and I know you're in the guild, so what do we talk about in the guild? We have the core 4 goals. It's not just becoming thin. It's becoming thin, healthy, happy, in shape. And so what you do is once you've achieved one of the core 4, you switch from becoming to staying. So I've become thin. Now I'm going to stay thin. And that's the mental mindset, right? I'm staying thin. And so something, you got to shift that mindset in there. But then remember, you're going to shift that energy that you had focused on becoming thin. You're now going to shift that to becoming healthy, happy, and in shape. Think of it like a debt snowball. If a person's wanting to get out of debt, they arrange their debt smallest to largest, put all the energy into the lowest one, and then roll all that into the next one, then roll that into the next one, then roll that into the next one. So you have all this energy you've been putting into becoming thin. And when you get to thin, you're going to find staying thin is actually not as hard as you think it is. And you'll then go, oh, well, I have this excess energy and capacity. Let's now redirect it to becoming healthy. What on your health goals could be improved? Your body's not done being healthy. It's always going to need you to tend and care for it. It's just going to break down as you get older. It's like a car. It needs preventative maintenance. It needs reparative maintenance. And it needs projects, right? You need things to do with it. Then, of course, becoming happy. Now, becoming happy doesn't actually mean happy. I usually say happy because it rolls off the tongue, healthy, happy, and shape. But what I really mean is working on peace. Working on finding peace in your life, finding joy in your life, regardless of what is happening. This is that deep inner work, that deep work that helps you never return back to emotional eating because we get to working on the cause of it. So you begin working on your life. That's the becoming at peace, is working on yourself, upgrading all the other parts of your life, because that actually does help you stay thin, because we want to keep the causes of emotional eating gone. We want to keep the holes out of your boat. And then last, of course, is becoming in shape. And the beauty of becoming in shape is that it never ends. There's no such thing as done. There's just, I've made sufficient progress and now I'm going to pivot, or I'm going to pause, or I'm going to take a break. Now you can stay in shape, sure, but you've been in shape. You can become in shape and not be thin, right? And so you're getting in shape, and you're going to begin to focus your efforts on some of these other things. So the other part is, in your mind, go ahead and start now, Jane. Start reframing from I'm losing weight to I'm managing my weight. That's what you're doing. You're not losing, you're managing, and you're managing it down in a downward direction. And something you could be doing now, and you'll keep doing on the other end, is going and checking, have you made noticeable, real, actual changes to your lifestyle, habits, routines, environment, community, and belief systems? Are any of those pulling you back to the old ways? Do you have elements of your lifestyle, habits, and routines that you find you can feel it keeps pulling you back to the old ways of doing things? And you start working on that. Do you have elements of your community that are still pulling you back to the old ways? You might still need to cut some people out of your life, or you might need to have some people that you spend a little less time around them, or maybe you still spend plenty of time around them, but you don't spend time around them if food is present. Just like if an alcoholic stopped drinking, that doesn't mean they can't hang out with their other friends that drink. They just don't hang out with their friends that drink when they're drinking, right? So you might have to make some adjustments to how you spend time around people. But of course, with your community, you need to add people to your community. They're going to want to help you stay thin, healthy, happy, and in shape as you make your way there. And the next thing that really helps that goes with that is, and you've already done this, Jane, I know, because you're in the guild, and I know that you've formed yourself a good quality group of people, but you need a good support network. I call them OSPs, only supportive people. You need an OSP network, people that you can talk to that are going to be completely supportive of you working on staying thin. They're not going to say things like, well, don't you think you've gone far enough? Haven't you traded one obsession for another? Oh, come on, one won't hurt. You deserve this. You need to be careful around that. You need people in your life that aren't going to throw those things your way, because other people in your life potentially might. And of course, you've got to pick a goal now, because what you're describing is you're accomplishing a big goal. But you know what's on the other side of a goal? Another goal. And you know what's on the other side of that goal? Another goal. You know what's on the other side of that one? Another goal. Goals lead to goals. And you'll realize goals don't make you happy. Happy is something you do is totally separate. And there's nothing wrong with pursuing a goal, but you're going to be around for a long time. So why not pick a goal that takes a long time to achieve? Just like you did with your weight loss. This has taken a long time to get here. I remember when you first came around, Jane. And so what I would say is pick a goal that involves taking care of your body. Some people are like, oh, I've done it. Well, I'm going to pick a goal of becoming really good at crocheting and quilting. I have no problems if you want to become good at crocheting and quilting, but this does not require you to take care of your body. So sometimes it could be actually very helpful to pick a fitness-related goal, because you're not doing it to manage your weight. Like, I take care of my body because I like running. And when I take care of my body, running is more fun. When I don't take care of my body, running sucks, and then I don't want to do it. Some people, they take up gardening. Some people, they take up dancing. Some people, they take up traveling. Some people, they take up landscape photography, which is something I did. Some people take up hiking. Some people take up lifting. There's anything. It doesn't matter. Some people, they just join a local walking community with their dog and that's their thing. But pick some sort of something and add elements to your life that keep movement in your life. And you're not doing it it has anything to do with weight loss. And trust your body. Your body doesn't want to gain its weight back. It has no problems gaining its weight back. Your mind might want to do the behaviors that would gain the weight back, but your body itself doesn't want to just go back to being big. Your body is biologically predisposed because when we have the fat cells in our body, it's easier for them to be reutilized, but it's not a guarantee. Our behavior is what triggers this. And so find reasons to do all the behaviors that created the weight loss and connect all of these behaviors to something other than managing your weight, other than losing weight. And sometimes when we get near the end of the journey, we're worried because we've attached all the behaviors we're doing to losing weight. And we're like, oh no, if I'm not trying to lose weight anymore, will I still do these behaviors? A legitimate fear, you actually might stop. So don't wait around, don't dilly-dally. Go ahead and start now trying to link these behaviors to things that have nothing to do with weight loss. Good question, Jordan. Or not Jordan, Jane. Our next question comes from Jordan. I was looking at the next one. Jordan asks, advice on maintaining self-care and good eating habits during a crisis. The last time one of my parents got cancer, I gained a lot of weight because I was just trying to stay afloat between caring for twin toddlers and caring for my dying dad. Now my mother has been diagnosed with cancer and I'm still only a few months and 30 pounds or so into my efforts to stop emotionally eating. I really don't want to backslide into comfort eating and not taking care of myself. But I also know it's going to get extremely difficult. What are some tools I can use during those moments when I'm so sad, exhausted, grieving, etc., to keep me on track, but also honor those feelings and soothe myself? So I don't like self-soothing as a concept. I don't have a problem with it, and I do it. But I think sometimes we make that a focus a bit too much, is self-soothing. And I don't actually think we're soothing ourselves. I think sometimes we're having a pity party for ourselves and we're relieving the pity and indulging in the pity and we're calling it self-soothing. And so I'm not saying that's what you're doing. I'm just letting you know that's why for me personally, I tend to shy away from soothing myself as a goal. And rather I let the effect of feeling soothed, letting my feelings be relieved, I let that just be a natural byproduct. I don't do that as the goal. Sort of like what I was saying in the last question of you find all the behaviors that lead to weight gain and you do it for reasons that have nothing to do with, or find all the behaviors that lead to weight loss and do those behaviors for reasons that have nothing to do with weight loss. That's what I would say here. Do the things that would cause you to feel soothed, but don't do it for that reason. Do it for other reasons. So I want to first, before I dig into this, acknowledge I can hear that I can read here. I mean, you're going through some hard things. And twin toddlers, bless you. Like, that's a lot of work, I imagine. I mean, two toddlers simultaneously the same age going through all the same difficult transitions of growing up as a parent is challenging. And then layering on top of that some of these other things, with both of your parents struggling, I got to imagine that's a very sometimes difficult emotional experience to go through. So the first thing when you do this is you have to acknowledge, and you're doing this, that you're about to enter a difficult emotional era and that you're in one. Don't deny it. I think acceptance of reality is a very important aspect of achieving peace and happiness and joy in life, is learning how to accept the isness of our life, what is happening. And it can be very difficult to do that when the thing that's happening is something we don't want to have happen. I remember when my dad was diagnosed with cancer and we found out he had less than 2 months to live. If I took too long to move to acceptance, I would miss being able to be with him in the way that I would have wanted. And it taught me by force to learn to accept what is happening. And that served me well, so that later in life, when other difficult things happen, I find it, I don't feel scared to go, I'm just going to accept that this is happening. And I'm accepting that I'm going to have some very difficult emotions to work through. Now, I am of the belief that there are no good emotions and there are no bad emotions. There are just emotions, that all of them are worthy of being felt and expressed, and they all deserve to be felt and expressed. All of them. I don't think any emotions are bad. I think there are emotions that are pleasant to feel. They're not good. They're pleasant. They're enjoyable. Love, excitement, elation, joy. These are pleasant experiences. And I think pain, disdain, rejection, these are unpleasant to experience. But they're all valid experiences because emotions are just our body reacting to our perceptions and reacting to our thoughts, to what is happening. And our perceptions are sometimes rooted in what is actually happening. We're seeing the things that are happening in life. And so it is logical that you're going to be in a position where you could be having sad feelings, exhausted feelings. And grieving is an interesting one because grieving is actually a word that we use to describe a process. Grieving isn't an emotion. Grieving is a process. And within the process of grieving, you actually have many, many emotions, from anger to sadness to acceptance to indifference to rage and everything in between, and all different flavors and sometimes simultaneously. It was a weird feeling as I was going through grieving to have the anger phase where I was mad, angry at my dad for dying. That's a strange feeling to feel, but it's a natural feeling to feel. It's part of grieving. And then, of course, I felt the guilt at feeling angry at him for dying. A natural part of grieving to feel guilt. And so one of the things that I think is important is to create space every day, or most days, for 15 minutes to an hour to feel your feelings. Now, there's lots of ways you could do that. You could literally sit in a room by yourself and cry. Depending on what it is, like for me, grief, I find sometimes I need to cry and I need to process. And so what I will do is get items around me that will trigger the feelings of grief. And I'll do it in a safe space, maybe in a room or in my car where I'm not going to be interrupted. And I will trigger the feelings and allow myself to feel them. Every year near the anniversary of my dad, I do that. I set aside some time to pull out my mementos and my keepsakes, and I watch some old videos, and I trigger my grief on purpose so that I can process it and release it and let it move through me. And that does cause me to feel soothed because my feelings aren't chipping away at me under the scenes. But beyond that, something that helps, because you're doing it every day, right? So every single day, you need to declare out loud to someone that you're taking care of yourself. You need to make it a declaration. Find an OSP in your life, someone supportive, and just say, I'm going through something really difficult, but I'm taking care of myself. Even better if you could tell this person what you're doing. It could be a loved one. It could be a friend. It could be somebody from a community. That's something people will do in the guild. They'll get on Marco Polo and they'll share with each other, like, I'm going through this, but I'm taking care of myself. There's tremendous power in declaring your intentions because your mind is listening. Your mind is listening as you do that. The other thing that can really help, now I said earlier, set aside some time to feel your feelings most days of the week. Of course, you're not going to be able to do that every day. Sometimes you're just going to be too busy and you're just not going to have time. But don't go more than a day, right? At least give yourself 15 to 20 minutes in a day to feel your feelings. You got a lot of from everything you're describing here, Jordana, you have a lot of feelings that you're going to need to experience. Get to shoveling. Like, the longer you wait, the longer this is going to take. So just start chipping away at it. Allow the feelings to be processed, and allow it to take as long as it takes. Don't try to put time constraints on, I need to be over this by X date. No, don't do that. Just, I want to get past this. The other part that we'll do that helps is remind yourself every single day out loud to yourself, I will eventually be okay. I will be okay. I may not be okay right now, but I will be okay. You got to say that to yourself every single day when you're going through really hard times. I know sometimes it doesn't feel like it's true when you're in the moment, when you're in the thick of it, but you've got to remind yourself that you will be okay. I promise. I promise, Jordana. One day, you'll get on the other side of these things and you'll be okay. And you'll look back at this stuff and you'll realize that you've learned a lot and you've grown from it. But in the middle of it, it's very painful and unpleasant. And we're not meant to always take that away. All right? There's nothing wrong with feeling all the feelings. There's no reason to go detaching from all of your emotions and not having them. There's no reason to do it. Living as a human is an emotional experience, and enjoy being a human. Enjoy having these feelings. But don't get consumed by them. So what I think is very important when life is putting you through the ringer, once or twice a week for at least an hour or two, preferably even if you could get a whole day or two, that's even better. Take a break from your problems. Just say, you know what, for tonight, Friday night, I have no problems. Problems do not exist. I'm not going to think about them. I'm not going to talk about them. I'm not going to watch YouTube videos about them. I'm not going to let somebody else bring it up. I'm not going to look at things. I'm going to ask myself, what would I be doing if these problems weren't here? And I'm just going to go do that. What is something I can do that would bring me joy? And I'm going to go do that. And it can feel weird to do something that brings you joy when loved ones are suffering. That can feel wrong. But burnout of caregivers is real. Burnout of being emotional support for people is real. In fact, Jordana, you can't afford not to take a break from your problems once or twice a week because it will give you the mental space. It'll give you the mental space to be able to be there when they're counting on you. If you burn yourself out and wring yourself dry with nothing left, you're eventually going to have nothing left to give. And that does not serve them. You need to give yourself a chance to recharge your batteries. And and don't be like, I have no problem, so I'm going to eat and watch TV to escape my problems into that. No, I don't necessarily want you to do that. Again, nothing wrong if you want to hey, I'm going to take a night and enjoy a movie tonight. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But don't engage in escapism of I have no problems, and so I'm going to do things I normally wouldn't do. I'm saying go do what you would normally do. Go live your normal life. Find an evening and go, what would my normal life be if none of these problems were existing? And go engage in that. And if you don't know the answer to it, great. Just start dabbling. Start asking other people what they do. What would a person in your situation do on a Friday night when you're taking a break from your problems? And now I know you have twin toddlers, so that could be difficult. But if you can, maybe get a babysitter for an evening. And you might be like, no, I can't let anybody watch my children. Well, maybe kind of get over that and realize you need to have a couple of hours, or find things that bring you joy that you can take your children with. You didn't mention a spouse anywhere in here, but if you have a spouse, you might need to lean on your spouse and say, hey, I really need a break. Can you watch the kids tonight? So that I need to start taking, I'm just so overwhelmed from all these things. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to do some self-care. I'm going to go get a spa night. I'm going to go on a walk. I got a friend I'm going to go hang out with, and we're just going to go do something fun. I'm going to just blow off some steam, just something. And just once or twice a week, take a little break from your problems, even if it's only for an evening. The other thing that's very important is every single day, and I mean every day, if you're finding the urge to emotionally eat is showing up, the other voice is there, talk about how food won't help out loud, preferably to supportive people. Find people in your life that are supportive of you and say to them, I know food isn't going to help me. I want to turn to food, but it is not going to help me. I'm not going to turn to food. You have to say it out loud. You have to chant yourself through this. You have to talk yourself through this and reassure yourself through this every single day sometimes. And that is okay. It doesn't take but just a few moments. And it's pretty easy to do, but just constantly talk about it. Because if you stop talking about it, the old scripts are going to take over your mind again. And you got to keep those old scripts at bay. And something that really helps keeping the old scripts at bay is journal about this stuff. Just once a day, fill up a half sheet of paper, and just write out your feelings. What am I going through? What am I not wanting to do? If you're having food noise, acknowledge that you're having the food noise and then reassure yourself, I know that turning to the food isn't going to help. And of course, as I was saying earlier, get good quality OSPs in your life. Find some supportive people and lean on them. Get real. Talk about really what is happening in your life. And I promise it'll really, really help. Next question. How are we on time? Oh, okay. I think I'm going to get through the two. I got 3 more. I think we're going to make it. These other ones are a little shorter. Sharon asks, how important is a kitchen scale? Right now, I'm just estimating my food weight. But I feel like once I get closer to my goal, I will have to be more precise with my calorie deficit numbers. All right. A kitchen scale is a super important tool. It still lives on my counter. It has never stopped living on my counter. And do I use it every day all the time? No, I do not. But I do have stretches where I use it. The thing the scale is tremendously helpful with is with portion control. The scale will really, food scale will really help you keep your portions consistent. You said right now you're estimating your food weight. Trust me, portion creep happens. It's very easy for 6 ounces of rice to slowly turn into 7 ounces of rice, to turn into 7.5, to turn into 8. It's real easy for, hey, I've just been having 100 calories of these chips out of this bag to turn into 110, to 130, to 150, to 180 calories. It's real easy for that to happen and you don't even pay attention. It's real easy to have all sorts of little ingredients just slightly creep up, and not have one ingredient creep up, but 30 things creep up just 10%, and that adds up. So if you're on the journey, even if you're not documenting your calories, I would still suggest that you weigh your food often. You don't have to do it all the time, but regularly calibrate your eyeballs, recalibrate them. I promise your eyeballs get off. They drift off. You cannot estimate your food weight all the time. Can you do it for short bursts? Yeah. Like if I'm weighing, let's say I'm doing, I like rice. I eat a lot of rice. I love rice. So let's say I'm eating rice. I'm like, okay, I'm going to start doing 7-ounce portions for dinner. Once I do that 3 or 4 times, I can almost one-shot it, right? I can almost go boom, boom, boom into a bowl, like that's probably 7, and I can get within a 1/4 ounce of it, right? But if I stop weighing, I can only do that for a few more weeks, and then it just starts creeping and it gets a little off, even if I'm having rice regularly. So I would advise you to have a scale around to just keep your eyeballs calibrated. The other thing is, don't focus so much on precision, but rather focus on consistency of choices, which the consistency will lead to precision, but don't do precision for precision's sake. Be consistent. So if you're having a meal, have the same portion usually when you make it. That way, if you're finding like, I'm not really losing weight, you can go to all your standard portions and just reduce them slightly in size. You can sort of reduce everything. You can reduce individual ingredients. It's really helpful to know how much you're eating, even if you don't know the calories. Just weighing your food. You could actually create a calorie deficit without even knowing the calories of food, just by weighing all your food and then bringing down the weights of everything a little bit. That would actually cause you to be eating less calories. And use the scale off and on again. Don't look at this like, I need to always use the scale forever. Don't do that. But also don't go, I never need to use the scale ever. Don't do that either. Just let it live on your counter and use it regularly. And if you're having really calorie dense foods, maybe use it. Like if I'm going to have chocolate, unless it's like I can count the bars and it says, all right, each square is X calories or something, I weigh chocolate. Why? It's calorie dense. The margin of error is high. If I'm using cooking oils, it's not in a spray, I weigh it, or I use measuring spoons. Why? Because it's very calorie dense. It's easier for it to get out of hand. Right. So, look, I'll tell you, I'm almost 7 years into the journey, and I'm still doing it. I'm still doing this. It's a major part of what's keeping me thin. All right. Next question comes from Kenny. How do you balance working out and eating extra because you're burning so many calories? So this is a philosophy shift we need to make. Food earns movement. Movement doesn't earn food. The old diet mind says I've moved a bunch. Now I get to eat food. We don't replenish. Because if you did the workout, you didn't need the food. You did the workout. The workout's over. And if you're thinking, no, I need to eat the food because I did the workout. No, the only thing you need is protein. That's the only thing you need. And even then, if you're eating protein throughout your day, the science is not definitely settled on, do you need to eat protein within 30 minutes of exercise? Maybe. For most of us, though, we're not bodybuilders. We're not extreme athletes. We're just regular old Joes. It doesn't matter. Just you can have your protein whenever. If you did the workout, you don't need the food. If you're going to work out, you eat the food first. And that's a big shifting in perspective. And athletes and people in fitness think this way. They understand that food is fuel. Food is a tool. We should not use food just as fuel, but we recognize that food is indeed fuel. And that's really what you're talking about, Kenny, with this question, right? How do you balance working out and getting extra fuel because you're burning so much fuel? See how I just changed that to word it that way? So it depends on what you're doing. Most people don't actually need to add much food. You don't need as much food as you think you do. If you're not, let me give perspective on how much more food I let myself have when I'm running. When I run for an hour, I will only add an extra 200 calories for the day. That's it. Now I'm hitting my protein targets that I need to hit. I've calculated what my calories should be. I know that I only burn about 75 to 100 calories an hour when I'm doing steady state cardio. Now, I know a lot of folks like, well, Chris, I use my fitness watch, and when I work out for an hour, it says I burned 400 calories. Okay, you were probably going to burn 200 to 300 of those calories anyway. Like you were going to burn them anyway. That's the problem with these fitness watches, is it gives us a false sense of how many calories we burned. You don't burn as many excess calories from exercise as you think you do. And you also aren't necessarily burning it from fat unless you're in the right heart rate zone. And so you do, however, need to eat enough food so that you have the energy to push on your workouts. So the way I balance it is I actually err on the side of caution, and I allow myself to get a little burned out, a little tired, bonk, as it's called, right? I just run out of juice. And so I eat consistently, and I don't really increase my food intake. I'm aware that if I suddenly increase my exercise or my movement, I'm going to have a hunger bump. So I know that like for a week, my hunger's going to be out of whack. I try to just keep that under control. But after that's leveled out, what I do then is I just allow myself to sort of run out of gas a few times. I'm like, okay, the way I'm eating is not fueling for this workout. And if I notice certain workouts, I don't have enough energy to get through them, I don't increase all of my food intake. I eat to fuel the workout right before. So I'm a runner. Let's say I'm going to go on a run, and I'm like, all right, I plan to go on a 45-minute run. And I've been noticing when I go on these 45-minute runs, I'm getting just a little tired when I do an afternoon run. I'm going to have 100 calories of a simple carb right before I run. Like 5-10 minutes before I run, I'm going to have it. Why? Because it's going to be entering my bloodstream, in probably 15 minutes or so. And my body's going to immediately start putting it to use. Sometimes I might be like, all right, I'm not going to eat in the beginning of the run. I'm going to eat in the middle of the run. So let's say I'm going to do an hour of cardio. All right. So I'm like at the halfway point, I'm going to eat like 100 calories of simple carbs. Like when I say simple carbs, I'm talking like pure sugar, right? Because I'm just going to absorb it right away. I'm going to use it as energy to power the run. 100 calories I can use to power an hour run and feel great. You don't need as much food as you think you do. So what I would say is just err on the side of caution. And it's interesting. You'll notice when you work out and you're feeling that tired feeling, don't immediately go, that means I need more food. It could just be you were a little tired that day. Like I run regularly. I'm training again. So it's fascinating to see how some runs, I'm just dead dog tired. My legs feel like 1,000 pounds and I'm feeling sluggish. And I'm like, I've not changed anything. I haven't even really pushed, but just sometimes that's what the body's doing. And then there's some days where I feel like a god, lowercase g. Like I'm like, wow, this body is a superhuman body and I can go push it. And I'm like, but this is crazy. I've barely eaten anything and I didn't get good sleep. Like bodies be weird. So if you're noticing a pattern though, of like, okay, for the last 2 weeks, I am just always tired. My numbers aren't improving on my fitness. So you need to be keeping a track on your fitness numbers and your metrics. It's like, all right, I think I need to up my food. So just up your food by 100 calories a day, or just start fueling the workout before. Now, if you're working out only 30 minutes a day of 30 to 40 minutes a day of actual workout time, and it's less than 5 days per week, you don't even need to be worrying about this. This is a non-issue. You're not working out enough for it to matter. Now, steps, on the other hand, if you're like all of a sudden ramping up to 10, 12,000 steps a day, you're going to need to eat more food on a daily basis to provide the energy for that. But if you're overweight, remember, your body is happy to get its energy from fat. It is happy to do that. And so sometimes you're just going to have, when you're on your weight loss journey, when you're on your becoming thin journey in the middle, sometimes you're just going to have to be a little uncomfortable. Sometimes you're just going to be like, I'm hungry, but I'm not going to eat. Sometimes you're going to go do a workout and like, wow, that was really hard. I'm definitely a little tired. And you're just going to be tired and you're going to eat like normal. It'll normalize over time, but this is really a game about looking at the patterns and figuring out what you need, seeing what the patterns are telling you. And just don't fret. As crazy as it sounds, just don't worry about it. Like, I hang out with some pretty intense athletes, like people that like make me feel like a hack. And I'm aware that I'm a lot, I'm I'm in pretty decent shape, but when I hang out with people, I really am aware of how much headroom there is to grow. And I'll see them talk about things like, yeah, I'm working out fasted. I'm training myself to do that. I'm letting my body know what that feels like. Or, hey, I'm working out fasted because I'm trying to slim down by a few pounds. I want to lower my body fat percentage by a few percentage points. So I'm just letting myself get a little hungry for a little bit. And that's literally their entire plan. They just let themselves get a little miserable hunger. There was a friend of mine I met. We hadn't seen each other in years, and his physique, it was just looking amazing. I was like, dude, you're looking fantastic. And anytime I see somebody that's had a transformation, I always like to ask him what they're doing with food, especially if they never had a weight problem. This guy didn't. I said, what are you doing? How are you handling food? And I loved his answer. He goes, well, I pretty much wait until I'm ready to chew my arm off, and then I eat. I'm like, what do you eat? He goes, I just make sure it's got protein, fat, and carbs, and a lot of protein. And he goes, that's it. And he goes, and it's crazy. It's working really, really good. And I'm like, well, man, it seems to be working. You look phenomenal. And his performance number was great. He was getting into powerlifting. So just don't fret too much. Just listen to your body. And being a little hungry ain't gonna hurt nothing. All right, last question. Let me scroll down. This one comes from Kelsey. Kelsey says, how to determine a goal weight. I think I might be 40 pounds away, but I have no idea if that's a good goal or not. Having a goal weight is important. And in the beginning, we sort of have one to give ourselves something to shoot for. But when I'm working with people, I actually don't talk in terms of goal weight once we've gotten going. Instead, we start talking in terms of a goal size. Because you could have 3 different people that are wearing the same size shirt, let's say a medium, but they could have drastically different body compositions. One of them could have a very low body fat percentage, so they have a lot of muscularity, and another person could be the same size and they're what's called skinny fat. They have very low muscularity and they're carrying a lot of fat on their frame, actually too much fat. The problem with BMI, people think BMI tends to overdiagnose, tell people they're fat when they're not. I, for example, am just a couple of pounds away from being considered overweight, and I have abs, visible abs. So I am an example of a person where it's telling me that I might be in a problematic place when I'm not. But that is not actually the problem with BMI. That doesn't happen that often where it's overdiagnosing on a population level. What the problem with BMI is it tends to underdiagnose. It tells people they're okay when they're not. And this is the example of skinny fat. There are 2 kinds of fat. There's subcutaneous, it's under the skin, and then there's visceral. That's in your organs, in your organ cavity right there with your guts and your liver and your stomach and your lungs. Subcutaneous fat actually isn't as unhealthy as you think. Visceral fat is the stuff that'll kill you. Visceral fat, you need to have gone. And the challenge is, and this it's a very real challenge in the era of GLP-1s. It's causing people to not eat enough protein, and they're not doing strength training, and they're getting under-muscled. And so they're small, but they don't have a lot of muscle on them, and they're becoming very skinny. And it's okay, but it's created another problem, which is now you have to put this muscle back on, because eventually your body's not going to want to put this muscle on. If you are over the age of 55 and you're on a GLP-1, you have to be strength training. You have to. This is not optional for you. You have to. If you are on a GLP-1 and you're over 50, 55, you've got to be strength training, because you are approaching the years later where it is going to be exceedingly difficult to put muscle on, and you're already in years where it's difficult to do it. And the other thing is you have to get protein in. You got to think of it like medicine. Eat protein shakes if you have to. Eat less of your fun food if you have to. You've got to get the protein in, because your body uses the protein to turn into muscles, and you need the exercise. It's a 2-part equation. Protein and resistance training. You need them both. You've got to do it. That way you have enough muscle on your frame. So I'm sharing all this to say, when we're determining goal weight, I don't want to just do it by weight, because it could allow a person to think they're good when actually they're not. They're skinny fat. They're under-muscled. So what I think is a better way to do it is to look at a holistic picture. Look at the picture from multiple angles. Body weight is only one piece of the equation. But when you're 350 pounds, you don't really need to worry about anything else. We don't need to worry about your body fat percentage. If you're 350 pounds, your body fat percentage is too high. We don't need to worry about your visceral fat percentage. If you're 350 pounds, you have too much visceral fat. We don't need to worry about things like your waist to height ratio because you're 350 pounds. We know it's out of whack. So at the beginning end, yeah, we can just look at your weight. And actually for a good while, we can just look at your weight. But once you get, if you're 6 foot and below, once you get under 200 pounds, 190 pounds, whether you're male or female, we really got to start looking at the whole picture. If you're 6'2", 6 foot and above, maybe around 220 pounds, we got to start looking at the whole picture. So what is the whole picture? So how do you determine when to stop? So first thing we got to think about is what is a number, a quantifiable number we can use to know I'm good. So there's no one magic number to be. That's the challenge. It's a range that puts you in the thin. And so the number we use is not a weight, it's a dimension. And it's your waist to height ratio. So you take your waist, divide it by your height, I believe, in inches. And you're looking for a ratio of 0.49. You want to be under 0.49. If you are below, at or above 0.49, you're not there. 0.49 is technically the top end where I would be like, okay, you've made it to the zone where you could think about stopping, but don't stop at the very top. Get a good, get down to 0.45, 0.4, 0.44, 0.42, like get down in there and then think about pausing. So you have a little wiggle room. If it starts getting a little out of whack, you can catch it and you're still in the thin zone and you're still happy with how you're looking. So don't stop at 0.49. The other thing we need to look at is, by the way, we use waist to height ratio because that's going to take into account your visceral fat. If you're getting smaller in your waist, it's because of, you've gone down in fat. Your abs aren't going to get much bigger. Now, some people are telling me, and I've been hearing that if you're shorter, I haven't looked into this yet, that your lats might affect that if you're short, if you have a shorter trunk. So that might be the case. But generally speaking, 2 inches above your belly button or below your lowest rib, your visceral fat is going to be the primary driver there. And we want to get, again, below 0.49. The other thing to look at, though, is your body fat percentages. What body fat percentage do you want to sit at? Because that's going to determine what level of your muscles are revealed. And so when you're getting down to the lower ends, you got to start deciding what that could be. I'm not going to sit here and tell you what a percentage you need to be. Like having visible abs for a dude, you're going to have to be 14% to 12% body fat. Depends on your makeup. If you're a female, you're going to have to get in the similar ballpark. But the challenge is if you're getting that low in body fat percentage, living there has a cost. And it's not a cost that's always worth paying. And for females, you don't want to be a super low body fat percentage all the time. That can really mess with your hormonal health. You actually need to be a little bit higher in body fat percentage than men. From just a hormonal health standpoint. But you decide where you want to sit. You pick. And so another thing you could look at is what size shirt do you want to wear? Do you want to wear a small, a medium, a large? I think personally, if you ask me, if a person says, Chris, how do I determine my goal weight? I say, I don't really care. Just get to a medium or a small. Don't stop at a large. Get to a medium or a small. Now, if you're a tall person, that might be different. But honestly, medium or large is where I think is going to put you in that good weight range where you're not carrying a lot of visceral fat on your frame. And it's a hell of a lot easier to work on fitness as you're doing things. And hold on, let me check my notes if there was anything else I wanted to add to that one. That's pretty much it. Hey, thanks for where are we at on time? Oh yeah, this is good. We're going to start as a good stopping point. There's several other really great questions here in this post. I've shut down the comments so people can't put more comments on it. I'll try to answer more of these questions either here or on the live stream on the Monday morning on YouTube. So if you'd like to come be a part of that live stream, you can head on over to Becoming Thin on YouTube. You can subscribe. If you hit the notification bell, you'll actually get alerted when I go live. But I go live Mondays at 9 a.m. unless I'm traveling or there's a holiday. But pretty much every Monday at 9 a.m. I'm doing it. I'm working on a way where you can subscribe to to a live stream calendar. I'm going to be doing a lot more live streams and at different times on different platforms. So I'm working on a calendar that you can subscribe to if you want to be notified anytime those happen. have a great day. Thank you for listening to the podcast. It's been such a wonderful pleasure to have you here. And I just want you to know, like, I don't take for granted at all ever that I get to do this. It is a joy and a privilege and a pleasure to be here every week, talking to you, helping you on your journey. It's a joy and a privilege because it's my opportunity to pay it forward. I've had so many people help me get here to where I'm at, and I want to help you. And I'm grateful that people have taken it to where they'll support the business, they'll support the services I make to allow me to do this full time. I'm a blessed person, and it is because of your support, and I just want to express my gratitude to you for doing this. And the best way, though, the number one way you could show your support to this show, to me, to anything else, is to go and take care of yourself, to go chase after the body and life of your dreams, because you deserve to live in it. And I hope one day you get to feel what it's like. I'll see you next week on the Becoming Thin podcast.